Hello, welcome to video 4 of this bite-sized comms course on strategic communications. I hope so far you've been learning a lot. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about leveraging comm strategies and tactics effectively. Now, I have a course on communication strategy that really talks you through how you can develop your strategy or strategy ideas from a particular problem you want to solve for your organization or from something that your senior leaders have asked you to do. What I want to do in this video is to help you to identify what strategies and tactics you should be using. As I've said before, your strategy really is dependent on the objectives that you want to achieve. And so that needs to be the starting point. What do we want to achieve? And then looking at what you want to achieve in terms of what the organization has set as its goals and what you have set as the objective of this communication activity, you would then need to identify the best strategies. There's so many ways that strategies can go. There is no right or wrong. The only time I think that a strategy is wrong is when it is not aligned with the objectives. When, for example, you're trying to target people in East Africa, but this strategy is just focused on people in West Africa. So I will ask you, but how is this strategy going to help you to achieve your objective? So that's the only time I would say a strategy is wrong. But there's so many ways you can go about it. But the starting point is really to ask yourself, how do we get to the desired outcome of this objective? And I will give you an example. So let's say your organization is one that offers training products or training services. So it's B2B, right? To different organizations, you train their teams and all of that. You train their executives, and your goal, the company has said this year we want to be one of the top 5 training organizations within this country, within this region, before the end of the year. So you then set your objectives, your SMART and your measurable objectives, to say we want to grow enrollment for our industry training programs by 15% by the end of 2023. So maybe the market leader or those that are number 1 or number 2, enrollment for their training programs is at 5%, is at 10%. After you've done your research, I'll always be talking about research and data. You say, okay, you know what, if we're able to grow enrollment to 15%, this will put us in a good market leadership positioning. This would also help us. So that can be one of your objectives. Now, if you want to now think about the strategy, looking at the fact that you want to, first of all, increase your enrollment for the industry training programs, your organization wants to become a leader within the space, within the B2B space for this particular training. So our strategy can be, we will then position our organization as industry experts on multiple platforms, which would include professional associations and business organizations. That would then be our strategy. Or we can say our strategy is that we're going to leverage a content strategy that helps us to produce multiple content on multiple platforms that promotes the thought leadership of our organization. So going back to the first example of the first strategy that you can use, which is to position our organization as industry experts on multiple platforms, including professional associations and business organizations. Your tactic can then be, okay, you know what, we're going to create podcasts. Okay, we're going to create opinion articles and put them in business media, tier 1 and tier 2 business media. We're going to secure speaking engagement for the executives and the management of this organization in specific industry and professional association related conferences, webinars, and events, because that begins to show people that, oh, these people know what they're doing. We promote our services, our training, and then positions us as a thought leader that then helps us to convert into enrollment. So there are many ways that it can go. And that's why I say to you, there is no right or wrong, but you must always be thinking, how will this help us to achieve our desired outcome or objective? Then the next question you need to be asking is, who is our primary audience? And in the previous video, we talked about that, so I won't go so deeply in that, but you need to establish who. So in this particular example, it's businesses, it is B2B, it's not consumer facing. But even though it is not consumer facing, and this is the point I was making in the last video about segmenting your audience, You may also want to publicize to professionals that work in organizations, because if I'm aware of a particular training, if I'm aware of, oh, this company is good at X training, I can then go to my HR and say, actually, I think you should enroll us in this training, because that is a touch point, right? And that's why you really, really need to do the research and say, for example, who will be our primary audience, who will be our secondary audience, the staff that work in that organization, they are influencing audiences, because they can influence the HR and say, look, let's use this company, let's use this provider. So you want to pay attention to them, as opposed to say, okay, no, we're just going to focus on the executives and leave out the people that work in these organizations. And then, why do we want to reach them? Why are we reaching the businesses? Why are we reaching the staff? Because we want them to know that our organization has the ability and capability to deliver this training on an excellent level. And so that also helps us to craft our messaging. And then what do we want them to do, right? So if we go on speaking engagement, so if we secure a speaking engagement for one of our executives, there must be a call to action. They're not there to advertise, but as they are speaking, they need to make references to the courses that we offer. They need to make references to what we've delivered, which is why you must always prep your executives for their speaking engagement. Your spokesperson, they need talking points. Again, that's a conversation for another day, but everything is so aligned with your overall objective. So there's so many strategies that you can leverage. I can spend, sometimes I spend a whole day strategy session brainstorming. There will be one that will be a best fit for your organization, for the industry that you are in, for what it is that you want to achieve, but you are allowed to think broadly, and then you narrow down to the one that will help you, again, to achieve your desired outcome, to achieve what it is for your objective. So there are many ways you can explore it. You can say, there's sometimes, there's certain brands that they may need to create a sub-brand, and that sub-brand creates a life of its own, because the people they want to target, the culture of the current parent organization is conflicting with this new target audience, but this new target audience is going to open them to a new market. So one of the best ways to ensure proper integration is to create a sub-brand or create a brand, that is outside of the parent company, that has a life of its own. And you've seen organizations do that. And so that's a strategy. So you build that new brand, build its own identity, create a strategy. You can say, okay, we're going to leverage influencers, and we're going to leverage the everyday person as our brand ambassador, and that also brings some sort of credibility. Then you think about the tactics. Okay, maybe we should do university ambassadorship, professional ambassadorship. Then maybe we want to do a media round, going round from media to media. Maybe we want to do like YouTube. Maybe we want to do spotlighting on social media. Tactics, there's so many tactics that you can use, but where a lot of plans fail is really thinking through, is this an effective strategy for us? And then how do you then manage your tactics effectively? Don't now create all the tactics in the world. I'll see comps, and I'm like, you want to do all of this in 6 months? With how much? With how many people? You need to think about, do we have the resources, human and financial, to implement this? Look, when you have a lot of money, the possibilities are endless. But it's not just about money. It's about, do we have the required skill? Do we have access to the people that we need to help us to deliver? And you need to think about those things as you are outlining your tactics. If we're going to bring on a third party, how much is that going to cost? How is that going to impact on our timelines? You think about, how will this tactic help in terms of supporting our objectives? So you can have 10 tactics, but you will realize that maybe 3 or 4 would really, really, really help you, to achieve that, your objective. Because again, everything you do in this plan, your target audience, your strategy, your tactics, your measurement, still boils down to your comms objective and what your organization wants to achieve. So if you're saying, for example, we should engage influencers, is that the best way, or is that the best means, best channel, best tactic to achieve whatever objective that your organization wants to achieve? So let's use the training example, the B2B example. We may not need influencers for that, because we're trying to attract organizations. So saying if we should do influencer marketing may not necessarily work. What would work better is if we're able to have engagement with e.g. the staff. If we go to this professional association and conferences, we create a booth, right? And then maybe if we even want to leverage an influencer, we create a booth, bring the influencer that understands the training. So not just, oh, is a celebrity, but understands the training, put that person at the booth. They're engaging with the people. First of all, they will draw traffic because they're popular, but they're also knowledgeable. So they engage with them and they also give them the information they need, and then lead to the signups that we want, because remember, we wanted to grow enrollment. So that's the way you need to be thinking about it. If we engage this strategy, what are the possible outcomes and how will it help us to achieve our objective? And then still on your tactics, how certain are you that this communication channel will reach your desired audience? And again, when you do your audience segmentation, you need to know what channels work effectively. Are we focusing on Instagram, where, for example, our target audience, they're on YouTube or they are not even online? So you need to know, is this the appropriate channel? Maybe, for example, in making a decision on whether to engage with an organization for this particular product or service, they go straight to Google, go to the website, and then they go to their friends. If your content or information about your organization is not on these channels and you're just focusing on Instagram, you've lost out in that conversation. So you need to be able to think through, and that's why the journey map really, really does help you. And then you need to know what are the alternatives to this tactic that can give you greater results or probabilities of success and will be less time consuming and will be cost effective. So you really need to think about, because it's not that even if your organization says, oh, we have $1 million to spend, it's not that you not spend the $1 million. You still have to think about it strategically. You have to make strategic choices for your tactics. Don't just choose, oh, we have a lot of money to blow. The people that are more creative are the people that still have a lot of budget, I think. But even if you have a lot of money, you can't just choose all of the tactics and say, oh, okay, we have to use this tactic. We have enough money. We can get 10 influencers. Will these 10 influencers help your organization in the way that you want them to help? So these are the things that I would want you to consider as you create your strategies, as you decide on your tactics. Always, always, always ask yourself, how does this help me to achieve my objective? How does this help my organization to achieve the goals that have been set for this year or this quarter? So I hope that those tips will help you as you create your strategies. And you can also watch my Com Strategy course, where I talk you through exploring multiple strategies for a particular problem, for a particular brief, and how to narrow down on the one that would be most effective for you. Thank you for watching.